Redick here. We're also going to be joined by Ryan Clark, Booger McFarland a little bit later on. So don't worry, the defense is well represented, you guys. Did I miss the wave sweat? Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. Thank you. You're on mute, but we read your lips. You said, Boogie, there's the wave. We're going to begin with some news, though, you guys. The NFL fined the Falcons $250,000 and defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich $100,000 for failing to prevent the disclosure of confidential information distributed to the club in advance of the NFL draft, all because, of course, the prank call to Shedeur Sanders, which Ulbrich's son was involved in. Here's more from Ulbrich, who spoke today.
My actions of not protecting confidential data were inexcusable. My son's actions were absolutely inexcusable. And for that, we are both deeply sorry. The NFL has taken action, and I fully respect the punishment. It's hard because those people should be celebrated in these moments, and they probably weren't as much as they should have been.
Louis, there's so many different conversations that have happened around this. I think we all agree that what happened was unacceptable. But I guess to push it forward, how is this still happening? How is there not a way to control this a little bit better, Lou?
You know, Laura, I mean, I don't really know if there is a way. Well, one of the ways in which you can control this kind of thing in Jeff's specific case is for him to be more careful as far as who has access to his own personal computer. And make sure that, I guess, even people who are his own, immediate family don't have access to it, and they can't even see it. Although, look, I mean, to be quite honest with you, if I was in that same situation as Jeff Ulbrich in particular, since that's the one we're talking about and the one that's getting most of the coverage, the last thing I would expect is for my son, who understands my own journey, one, as a player, two, as an assistant coach, three, over top of it all, as his father, the last thing I would expect would be for him to violate that kind of like familial trust and then try to use that information to kind of just, play a joke on someone in one of the most important days of their lives. So I don't really, look, I feel bad for Jeff Ulbrich, quite honestly. Look, obviously he could have done maybe a better job at protecting that information, but at the same time, he shouldn't be the one who's up there having the answer for those actions right there, or rather what took place. His son at 21 years old should be up there having the answer for that, because those are the kind of things that I think as a family, as a father with a son, you would trust that he would understand that this is something that is to be respected, not something that is to be trivialized or diminished in any sake of you like having some fun and trying to like play a prank on someone. It really is out of line, out of touch. I think overall, I mean, obviously the NFL probably is now, and teams in particular now are going to really, really safeguard these numbers, these individual numbers of the potential prospects, and only have very few have access to it, like namely an owner, a head coach, and the general manager, and that's about it. Because otherwise, I mean, these are kind of things that you run the risk of happening, and they're just unacceptable. They really are.
We also, enough of that.
He's trying to be all professional.
Yeah, I know. We don't need that on this show. The draft's over. We're left with some major question marks at quarterback. There are some important situations that still need answers. Let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers. They brought back Mason Rudolph after his one-year stint with the Titans and then drafted Ohio State's Will Howard in the 6th round. He joins the signing of the former Dolphins backup Skylar Thompson. And, of course, Pittsburgh could land Aaron Rodgers, but the four-time MVP has yet to make a firm commitment to sign with the team. So, Ryan, you've been a player in the Steelers locker room. What are you thinking at this point about your quarterback situation after the draft?
That they better have either the steel curtain or the 2008 Steelers defense if they want to be a team that could be near 500. Listen, they put themselves in an extremely difficult situation, whether it was waiting on Aaron Rodgers or not addressing it in free agency or not picking someone in the draft before they picked Will Howard that could be a viable starter for this year. When you look at the plan that Omar Khan has put in place, I don't believe this allows you to compete with the Baltimore Ravens or the Cincinnati Bengals, even the Cleveland Browns improving, and we know how good that AFC is. This could be the first losing season of Mike Tomlin's tenure as Pittsburgh's head coach.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, here we go again. As a defensive player, I'm starting to get ready to lift these weights and run these hills, and I'm like, here we go again. Like, how are we going to score more than 17 points? Like, so why am I out here busting my behind, running, trying to get bigger, faster, stronger, and y'all going to get a 42-year-old off the beach with a blanket around his shoulders to play quarterback for us? Like, at some point, y'all got to help me help you. And so I'm just saying to myself, like, here we go again. Are we going to do this one more time?
That should be a
Boogie, you
meme.
right
I
on
like
it, bro.
that.
Which is why for the black community that think I hate Shedeur Sanders is why I thought he should have went 21, which I talked about ad
Yes,
nauseum.
you did.
Because I did think he was the second best quarterback in this draft. But also, if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers and you have a higher grade on another quarterback, why you ain't take them at 21? Why we gotta wait? Like, you knew Mason Rudolph wasn't the answer. Everybody in the world know that, right? We look at the rest of the quarter. Hopefully, they hoping Will Howard turn into a Tom Brady situation and he surprise them is all I can assume. But this waffling at this quarterback position that's been going on for so long in Pittsburgh is starting to grow real weary on these fans. And me and RC talked about it during the draft. What are they going to do to not only instill some hope at that position, but more importantly, reinvigorate the dudes in that locker room? You go get receivers in DK Metcalf, and you don't have anybody to get them the ball consistently. If it ain't Aaron Rodgers, which y'all know I said I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, I think they should have took one of these quarterbacks, which I thought would be Shedeur at 21.
Yeah, look, the profile of the guy that they have ultimately is going to be important, Marcus, because of the thing that you just alluded to. Look, DK Metcalf and George Pickens, do they come across as the kind of guys that are going to take real kindly to a quarterback who can't get them the rock on a consistent basis? I think that's going to bode well for their football team. I'm just asking. You know what I mean?
They're going to beat him up. They're going to beat him up.
They need to make sure. They just need to make sure that dude is that dude. And look, Mason Rudolph has played a role in this league for a long time, and he'll continue to play that role. But it's a role. They need a franchise quarterback. And now they've painted themselves into a corner, and it's either Aaron Rodgers to me or bust, or otherwise, exactly as RC said, you're looking at a real troubling season, I believe.
Oh, boy. All right, 100 picks today on ESPN.com. He evaluated all of the players taken and the value that teams got out of them based on where they were picked. You can see the top 15 picks are going to be on the board. We'll show you there. That's the article that you just saw there on ESPN.com. It's Shedeur Sanders at 10 overall. Let's welcome in Matt here. Matt, take us through your top 5 picks. Let's start with number 5.
Yeah, number 5, one of my favorite players in the entire draft was Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia who lands with the Atlanta Falcons. I actually had him as my number 5 overall player. So to get him at 15, it was a great value in terms of where he was ranked versus where he was picked. It's also a great scheme fit. This is a team that was desperate for pass rushers. They needed more speed on defense. Getting Jalen Walker, who's ready to go right away as an off-ball linebacker and as an edge rusher, really is going to bolster this defense that went heavy on the edge and at safety in this draft. Let's just stay in the SEC because there's a lot of those guys in this article. Jahad Campbell going number 31 overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. The rich get richer. We just saw Zach Bond have an all-pro breakout year with the Eagles in a role that is very similar to what Campbell can do. He could play off ball. He could play out in the slot as a rusher. He could play as a blitzer. He's a spy going against mobile quarterbacks. As long as he's healthy, he's someone that could be very, very special. We got to get Ashton Genty in here. The number 3 overall player on my board and the final blue chip player on my board after Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. He is going to be the focal point of the Las Vegas Raiders offense under Chip Kelly, who wants to run the rock between the tackles. If you play fantasy football, dynasty football, Ashton Genty 1-1 this year's draft if you're adding rookies. Number 2, Will Johnson. He was my number 7 overall player. Somehow falls to number 47 because of the injury questions and concerns. I've heard the audio from the Cardinals room where they said, how the heck is this guy still on the board? I was wondering the exact same thing. As long as he's healthy, he could be a star in the NFL. Someone very similar to Trevon Diggs. He's great in zone coverage, and he's a playmaker. Last year, 2 picks. He took both back for pick sixes and touchdowns. And my final guy, if you've watched our draft coverage this year, you know my guy's Luther Burden III from Missouri. I had him as a top 15 player. He fell to the Chicago Bears. This is one of those I'm betting that the NFL was wrong and I was right on. Burden can be a factor in the Chicago offense. He'll start as a slot receiver. He was the best of any receiver in this class in terms of yards after catch ability, the way he sees the field, and his speed. At 206 pounds, he can run around you, he can run through you, and he is paired with a great offensive mind.